Hey, it's Zoe, and I have a question for you. Are you happy with your workplace culture? Are things going really well? And if they're not, how can we change them? That's the question we're exploring today. How do we change culture? Let's do it.
Welcome to the Zoe Routh Leadership Podcast, your source of strategies and insights to make you a better leader. Influence, improve, inspire.
Welcome to February. This year is well and truly started, and things are rolling along pretty amazingly. I'm looking at North America and noticing the deep freeze, and our deep heat here in Australia has eased a little bit, thank goodness. Weather is pretty amazing thing. Other amazing things, I've got my new Oura Ring, which is tracking my sleep, and it's really cool the kind of information you can get from it. So I've only had about 5 nights of sleep so far, so not enough to give significant data about trends and so forth. But one thing that did happen is last night I had a glass of wine. Oh, imagine a little bit of an indulgence, and it had significant impact on my sleep. My resting heart rate went from 53 beats per minute to 59. Enough of a difference for the app in the report the next day to say, hey, pay attention to this. Could also be that I ran 2 hours yesterday and my body was just in needing to repair itself. In any case, I'm looking forward to tracking my sleep and doing little experiments on how to improve it and become ultimate sleeper. Speaking of ultimate habits, I have my new habit tracker that I got from James Clear as well that I mentioned in the last podcast, and that's really cool. I've listed out my ideal routines that I think are cornerstone ones, like drinking water with lemon juice, meditating AM and PM, exercise, nutrition, cold showers. Yeah, I know. Those aren't the fun habits. In any case, I'm tracking these as to my daily routine. And it's pretty galvanizing, actually, every day that comes up and you get to put little X's in the boxes that you ticked. And you feel that sense of progress. Thank you for that, Dr. Jason Fox, in terms of making your progress visible. The other exciting piece of news is that we've managed to secure Daniel Kilov for the unconference coming up in March. Who is Daniel Kilov, I hear you say? Well, he's a local. He is a PhD student. He's doing his PhD on expertise. And he read Malcolm Gladwell's book, The Outliers, where he quotes this need to do 10,000 hours in order to become a true expert. And Daniel posed the question, do we really need 2,000 hours or could we do it in less? And it turns out that all the work that he'd done on memory, because he's also a memory expert, really helps hack this idea that we don't necessarily need to do 10,000 hours of activity to become an expert in a particular area. If we hone our memory skills, we can hack that. There's lots of reasons or lots of things we can do with memory hacking, such as becoming more socially adept, becoming more strategic and effective as a leader. So I'm pretty amped and pumped to have Daniel come along to the unconference. Though we still have some places left for tickets, so you can go to, I'll put a link in the show notes at zoerouth.com/podcast/culture, and you'll be able to find the link there to the unconference. All right, so on to this question, how do we change culture? It was prompted when I was listening to a podcast by Seth Godin, and he had a question from a listener about that. How do you change culture? How do you if you're changing culture, how do you change the beliefs that drive culture? And basically Seth said, don't worry so much about the beliefs. What you want to be doing is reinforcing behavior. Are you celebrating and accepting and pointing out good behavior, which is the byproduct of beliefs, if you like. However, I think in saying that, he said, if you get the behavior changing, you'll get the beliefs changing, you get the values changing. So he's intonating that belief is a byproduct of repeated action. So if you change the action, the beliefs will take care of themselves. And I'm thinking about this, and I think belief is a byproduct of repeated action and reflection. So I think if you take action, reflect on its implications and its results, then you can evaluate whether that action was good or not. And if it's having a good outcome, then you can adopt that behavior as a positive thing. If it's not having a good outcome, then you can let it drop. And it's only by taking repeated action that you get a habit. And in that habit, it reinforces identity. And this is what James Clear says. If you want to become a different person, adapt the habits of that kind of person. So if you want to be a corporate athlete, start practicing the habits of a corporate athlete. If you want to be a musician, start practicing the habits of a musician. So it's in the taking of the action that forms the identity, and that also drives the beliefs. It's kind of reverse engineering, and I hadn't thought that that was one way to change behavior and to change beliefs. Largely, I advocate taking deep focus of your environments, your experiences in those environments, and then being very conscious about the beliefs that are running your life. I think both are useful. In any case, acting as if, which has been a proponent of the law of attraction movement, where you act as if, where if you're not confident, act as if you're confident. If you're not a millionaire, act as if you're a millionaire, are ways of building belief and practice and habits. Those are kind of key ideas on how you do that. So coming back to this idea of how do you change culture, I was thinking that, okay, well, let's explore this. If we're going to get people to change behavior, if I want people to become amplifiers instead of just achievers, which is the main focus of the Unconference, what are the actions of an amplifier? First, what's the difference between an achiever and an amplifier? An achiever is transactional, and an amplifier is transformational. An achiever is a path taker, an amplifier is a path maker. An achiever is delivering results, an amplifier is creating opportunities. An achiever focuses on milestones, whereas an amplifier focuses on movement. An achiever might focus on money, an amplifier focuses on meaning. Now, I've set this up as a binary, but really what we're talking about is an evolutionary step. So we all need to go through the achiever stage where we are being transactional, we are setting goals, achieving them, having milestones, and delivering results. That's key. We don't lose that. We bring that with us, and yet we bring it to a bigger context, which is what amplifiers do. It's no longer just about hitting targets. It's actually about creating transformational change. So amplifiers build on achievement. So I wanted to look at a couple examples of amplifiers. And I got this idea from watching Craig Rispin present to the Australian Pork Industry Leadership Program that I was running last week. And he said one of the key ways to think like a futurist or be an amplifier is to follow science fiction. And he quoted Minority Report that was released in 2002, directed by Steven Spielberg, and if you remember, was one of Tom Cruise's movies. And the premise of the movie is that it's set in 2054, is that the industry has gotten so good at monitoring people's thoughts, brainwaves, and behaviors is that they can predict a crime before it happens, and it's called pre-crime. So they have a police force that goes and arrests people before they commit a crime because of the software indicating that this is a predictive thing, that in 2 hours they're likely to commit this crime. So pre-crime is the premise. Also in the movie, we haven't seen that necessarily. We haven't seen pre-crime crop up as a technology that's evolved. It does have eye software recognition. So what ends up happening is that Tom Cruise realizes that he's been targeted as a pre-crime, somebody to be arrested for a pre-crime, and he wants to escape. Everybody runs, they say in the movie. Everybody runs. Once you know that you've been targeted for pre-crime arrest, you want to get the hell out of there. So he goes through the scene where he gets new eyeballs. So he gets new eyeballs transplanted. So the idea being that retina scan identifies you is your personal ID. Well, we have that, don't we? We also have facial recognition. And in the movie, Tom Cruise is walking down the street, and the billboard advertising comes up and says, "Hello, John. Would you like a tie for blah, blah, blah?" We have that technology now, don't we? We have targeted, individualized marketing popping up in our Facebook pages. And it's a little bit scary. And we have facial recognition. So those who have a new iPhone, you just put the phone up to your face and it opens it up. So science fiction is a grand predictor of the future. And if you're going to be a path maker, an amplifier, one of the key actions you need to take is to watch and read sci-fi, to read science fiction. Craig Rissman also mentioned that a lot of the sci-fi movie directors hire futurists in different categories to help them give the best ideas of what's coming in the future. And Craig ascertains that in 2002, these really cool futurist-led movies come out in the scene, and young kids looking at these movies saying, that's really cool, I want to make that. And they build what these futurists imagined. So a kid back in 2002, or an adult, looking at the Minority Report technology showcased in the movie, saw motion sensors. So there's this scene where Tom Cruise goes in and he's looking at the database, and instead of touching a screen, he just does motion sensor on a virtual screen to surf through the different data. We have that technology now, don't we? We have that in the game Wii. I was watching my niece play with the Wii, the dance Wii, with her friend over in New Jersey when I was visiting at Christmas. And the two of them were just doing these virtual following a motion sensor thing and getting feedback on their dance development. And I tell you, those kids were huffing along. So anyway, we have this technology. And if you're going to be an amplifier, read and watch science fiction. You can see what's coming, or you can get inspired to create it yourself. So an amplifier creates opportunities. And this is an interesting piece of information. Since 2016, 7.9 million square feet, that seems a lot, of U.S. retail has been turned into warehouses. So that's like malls and strip malls. These big, massive retail centers have been folding and being converted into other types of premises. And the prediction is in the next couple of years, there are currently 1,000 malls. At least a quarter of them are going to be mothballed or reinvented. So a quarter of 1,000 malls is 250 malls. And what are they transforming them into? Community colleges, campuses, doctors' offices, storage spaces, Amazon warehouses, maybe even Whole Foods warehouses. Some of them are being turned into community accommodation. Isn't that interesting? And I think it's also coming for retail in Australia too. You just have to go down to look at different malls and see how many empty retail spaces are there, and talk to any of the retail shop owners and how difficult they're finding to survive in the age of internet shopping. So this has been a long trend coming. So if you're going to be an amplifier that creates opportunities, you need to be alert to this stuff. How do you do that? The action you need to take is to monitor and respond to trends. Be looking at stuff and be asking, what does this mean? What are the opportunities here? The third thing you want to do if you're going to be an amplifier, and the actions that you need to take, is to lead a movement. So an achiever looks at milestones, and an amplifier looks at a movement. There's lots of really interesting movements happening at the moment, and one of the quirky ones is Marie Kondo's joyful movement. So her book, The Life-Changing, The Life-Changing Something of Tidying Up, life-changing experience maybe of tidying up, and the whole decluttering process that she advocates in her new Netflix show has sparked a lot of people to go and purge their houses of unnecessary stuff that doesn't spark joy. And I think this is a curious movement, if you like, and it's underpinned by this idea, this emotional idea of having more joy in your life, having things in your world that spark joy instead of just get in the way and clutter it all up. Well, I dug a little bit more into movements and types of movements there are. There's two different types, really. One that's reform, and that's to change existing norms or laws. And there's movements that are radical, that are seeking to change value systems. So an examples of that, reform might be like a trade union that wants to improve workers' rights. They're not looking to change the entire system. They just want to improve bits. A radical movement might to change huge value systems are examples like the American civil rights. They don't want to just change the system. They want to change a whole way of thinking and being and attitudes. A more contemporary one is the Me Too movement. This is a radical movement that wants to end different practices and different attitudes towards women in the workplace, and that men's different roles in the workplace. The other thing about movements, you can focus on individuals or everyone. So the Marie Kondo movement, joyful movement, is really focused on changing individual behavior, whereas the Me Too movement is, well, it's individual behavior, but largely it's a collective stance, isn't it? It's time to change the way we think about men and women, how we engage at work and at home. So in a movement, we either want to improve or preserve or transform. So you can have like conservative movements that want to preserve traditional values as well. So if you're going to be an amplifier, what's the particular action that you need to take? And in a movement, it's to spread the word. And as an amplifier, as a leader who wants to lead transformative change, you need to spread the word. You need to spread the good word. You need to share your ideas and vision. You need to talk about it in messages that resonate. You need to tell stories that create clear pictures of what it is that you're leading. So the ideas that I'm sharing as an amplifier are around boundless leadership. And the key principles or ideas around it are to have more impact and less struggle. And that rigorous self-care to minimize limitations, personal limitations, so that you actually have a person out there to lead the change, is combined with relentless pursuit of a better future. So it's not self-sacrifice in pursuit of a better future. It's rigorous self-care to minimize your personal limitations and combine that with the relentless pursuit of a better future. Essentially, I want leaders to be well, think better, and do more. So coming back to the 3 actions you need to take to be an amplifier is to watch and read science fiction, monitor and respond to trends, and to spread the word. Coming back to your cultural workplaces, what are the key actions or behaviors you want your people to undertake? If you are wanting to create a sense of belonging in your workplace, what are the behaviors that you could identify that you want people to do on a regular basis, if not daily, to encourage that culture of belonging? It might be to thank somebody each day. It might be to have a team meeting for 5 minutes, a stand-up team meeting every day where you celebrate the wins of the day before, the week before. What are the behaviors? And when you get conscious and deliberate about that, that's how you start to change the culture, bit by bit, one day at a time, reinforcing the actions and behaviors that will sustain the culture and drive the beliefs that support it. I'd love to hear your ideas around this. Feel free to send me an email, zoe@innercompass.com.au, or to leave a comment, or to rate the show. That would be totally awesome. It's really great to know that there's people listening out there and that my values, my ideas are sparking responsive ideas. Well, in the meantime, live well, lead well, or I should say, be well, think better, do more.